Good evening, this is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. Sitting in for Pio Ontiveros, I'm Mitzi Borromeo. An MRT train that overshot the railway, a congested port, Carmageddon traffic in Metro Manila, and the recent truck ban, transportation woes such as these can make our lives a living nightmare. Tonight, we try to make sense of this transportation mess and find out what's being done to solve this huge web of problems. Our guest tonight in the first half of the show, we have Department of Transportation and Communication spokesperson Michael Arthur Sagcal, and on the phone in a while, Vice Mayor of the City of Manila, Isko Moreno. And in the second half, we'll have transportation expert and urban planner Rene Santiago and Secretary General of the Philippine Global Road Safety Partnership, Alberto Swansing, who is also a former LTFRB chairman. Now let's begin with Attorney Sagcal. Thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure to be here.
You just came through horrible traffic, huh?
Yes, coming here from the far distance of Ortigas Avenue.
And we will discuss this Carmageddon situation. But for now, the investigation of the MRT3 accident just came out. So tell us about the findings of this report.
Well, in a nutshell, I think a lot of people are already familiar with what happened. There was a three-car train configuration that stalled, supposedly between the Magallanes and Taft Avenue stations, which had to be pushed by an assisting train. So the distressed train could not unload passengers and had to be pushed all the way to Taft Avenue. However, the investigations, I'll go straight to the findings. It was shown that the distressed train was actually still partially inside the Magallanes station.
Okay.
So technically, the passengers could have been let down and onto the platform. The drivers did not follow the standard operating procedures.
So you're saying they should have been let down there? That was the driver's decision?
They could have been, yes. I think if the command center took the time to check if the train was indeed interstation, then they would have followed the correct procedure. But however, since it was still partly in the Magallanes station, then the command center could have instructed the drivers to let the passengers down.
Okay.
That's one problem. Another problem is the standard operating procedure is both drivers and alternately take a look at the coupling.
Yes.
So once the trains are engaged, one driver goes down, checks it, the other driver monitors from his dashboard, and then they switch. They do the same procedure for their respective trains, right? In this case, it was only one driver that went down and checked the coupling. And I think the biggest mistake here was that he even cranked the coupling.
Okay.
And cranking it means essentially that you are initiating a decoupling.
Right.
So what happened was after cranking it, it appears like in his mind, the driver believed that the trains were still engaged.
Yeah.
But because of the cranking, in fact, it had loosened up. And so when the assisting train pushed the distressed train uphill, it's an uphill drive going towards Taft. It was normal, although indicators also show that it was overspeeding a bit. And by the time it reached the hill, the front train just started going on its own, pulled by gravity. And because its power had been shut off, there was no means to stop it before reaching the train station of Taft Avenue.
So this is why the investigation is out saying this is human error.
Yes, that's
purely human error.
That's right. If you look at the standard operating procedures, which are designed precisely to address situations like these, they were clearly not followed to the T.
Right. But yet officials have also been saying that the MRT3 system has been obsolete. In fact, maintenance was needed. So isn't there a bit of a disconnect here? Because wouldn't you say that since the maintenance was needed, there was also a technical problem involved? Well, so it cannot be purely human error.
The cause of the accident was a human error. Whether there's a need for continuous maintenance, which, by the way, is being provided, we never stop maintaining the trains. Otherwise, we'd be forced to stop operations altogether.
Right.
Whether there's a need to upgrade the signaling system, which is a different component, whether we need to improve the maintenance contract, yes, the answers are clearly yes. The MRT system hasn't been upgraded or improved for easily 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
They're outdated. These are solutions that should have been done by MRTC 10 years ago, the private owner of the
Yes.
train system. And in fact, as DOTC stepped in and purchased, for instance, the first improvement was the purchase of 48 additional train coaches. MRT Holdings, which is a separate company but controls MRTC, is trying to block that as well. So these are the obstacles that the DOTC has to face. But they don't, we have to face them because we need to improve the system as it is.
Now, in terms of the investigation, there was an editorial cartoon in the Philippine Star today showing, I don't know if you saw that, but basically it was a long arm of the DOTC pointing at the driver, and next to it was the train showing the obsolete system. Now, this was an investigation, fact-finding committee conducted by DOTC, but in a case like this, it would be good to have an independent study done. Now, of course, this is on the side of DOTC, the findings, but there will be one conducted.
Well, we'll welcome it. I mean, we can't, even if we commission an independent investigator, then it'll be the same thing. They'll say, well, the DOTC commissioned that investigator. In fact, the police is investigating. So we'll await the results of their investigation, but so far indications show that it's almost the same set of evidence so far that they've collected with what we've collected. But if there's an independent probe, we have no problem with that.
Now, going back to the maintenance issues, before this big accident, there were a series of other glitches also that leading up to this. So it seems many people feel that maybe this was something big waiting to happen. And you said when we spoke on the phone before on Nightly News, you were mentioning that more cars are coming in 2015. Now, how are we so sure that due to the lack of maintenance, accidents like this will not happen?
Well, one improvement that we're doing right off the bat is lengthening the maintenance contract. Right now, it's a 1-year period per contract. What we're going to do is the next contract will be 3 years long. And what that does is it allows the contractor, the supplier, the maintenance provider, to budget his expenses more efficiently, such that, for instance, the purchase of spare parts, which would take 6 months to a year to actually have it delivered here physically, that would be restrictive for a 1-year contract. But if we do it for 3 years, then they can plan it better. And if in the interim they need to do stopgap measures, they can do that while at the same time expecting brand new parts to come in.
Well, speaking of contracts, I'd like to bring out a case. Back in, what year was it that there was a case with Alvit Angkol III, where he was allegedly involved in a shakedown, a $30 million shakedown. Now, this is what caused him to be removed from his post. So there's questions about dubious contracts taking place within the MRT3 system. How are contracts really done? In that case, specifically that case, we're still awaiting President Aquino's action on the recommendation of the Department of Justice.
I believe we're waiting for the NBI investigation, the results of that investigation. But the contracts, I think, for instance, that particular contract that was subject of the probe was the additional 48 coaches, train coaches that we purchased. We had a World Bank recommended expert, renowned globally, to come over to the Philippines, review the terms of the contract, and advise us based on his international experience whether there was anything anomalous or even suspicious in the terms of the bid. And he told us there's nothing suspicious with the bid. Everything went above board. So that's why we're also confident in pursuing the project right away. So I think the DOTC makes it a point to ensure that when we bid projects out, they're fair, they're open, they're transparent. And if there's a question that's brought into our attention or to the public, we're very open to having reviews and probes into them.
Well, there was also the case of in 2010 when the maintenance contractor was about to, it was TESP, they were the contractor for maintenance, it was about to expire, and for renewal, so this is a subsidiary of Sumitomo, a Japanese company who has a very excellent record of maintenance. Now, it seems that when the new contract was bidded out, it didn't follow the usual protocol. Suddenly there were emergency, it went through a quick system and it suddenly was given to the new contractor. But this didn't, again, it didn't go through the usual protocol, the system. What happened in that case?
Well, we went through a different mode of procurement, but still within the procurement law. It's called, I think, a negotiated procurement mode, where...
So that's sort of an emergency mode, but because DOTC waited till the last minute, basically.
Well, no, it was MRTC that used to provide TESP and Sumitomo as the maintenance providers.
And then DOTC took over?
Yes, when it went over to government, then we had to get a maintenance provider. And so we went to a negotiated stage where, in fact, we could have just picked one contractor and negotiated with them directly. But our practice has been to invite at least three. So at least there's still competition among the interested parties.
Right. So in terms of for the current maintenance, so that company actually did not even have a good track record in maintenance. It's more just labor, and then DOTC was to buy the parts.
Well, that's actually a misconception.
That's what we've been hearing.
Yes. The first maintenance provider procured by the DOTC is a joint venture. Like, they're mostly joint ventures. The company that's said to have no track record was the company that met the financial requirements of the bid. But the technical expertise was provided by its joint venture partner, which has a lot of experience with LRT1 and LRT2.
Right.
So it's actually, yes, it's not your fault, obviously, but it's wrong information that's coming out.
Yeah,
It says that that maintenance provider did not have the expertise.
Yes.
The DOTC will not give a contract so sensitive to a company that does not have the capability to meet the requirements.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Now, looking at the passengers, of course, what is the current situation, and what kind of compensation are we going to see here? As well, also the cases that are going to be filed against the drivers. What is going to happen in that regard?
Okay, with the passengers, that's obviously a priority of the DOTC. You know, we take responsibility. We don't shirk away from being answerable to the passengers. First, they're covered by GSIS insurance.
Okay.
So at least on that level, the minimum medical expenses, I think hospital expenditures, these are covered by insurance. So what we're doing, but GSIS has been very proactive, but what we're doing is we're assisting GSIS, we're coordinating to make sure that all the needs are met as soon as possible. Obviously, for government, there are always some steps that might delay, but we're trying to push it as fast as we can. Apart from that, the DOTC is looking at its budget. Again, there are restrictions, but we're looking at where we can free up some funds and without getting audited or warned that we're doing something wrong, then we'll release those as additional compensation.
Okay.
Now, as to the the other topic was the
drivers.
Case
versus the drivers.
Okay. What we had was a fact-finding investigation. Again, a committee composed of the DOTC, the Office for Transportation Security, and the LRTA. Their findings are now submitted to the legal department of the DOTC.
Sorry, I'll have to stop you there.
Sure.
We'll go more into that because it's
right.
quite a long explanation. We'll take a short break. Please stay with us. News.PH. We'll be right back. You're watching News.PH. I'm Mitzi Borromeo. We now have on the phone Vice Mayor Isko Moreno. Good evening, sir.
Ay, magandang gabi po sa inyo, ma'am, at sa lahat po nanonood sa Lord News.
Yes, sir. So, sir, sa ngayon, another big issue sa transportation, truck ban. So, the Manila truck ban is said to be causing a lot of problems. Ito daw ang dahilan na na-affect ang traffic within the metro. It's also affecting our economic situation. Ano pong development sa inyo? Because businessmen have been calling on you to compromise and hopefully lift this truck ban.
Okay, first things first, no, yung sinabi mo na nakaka-apekto ng traffic. Yeah, nakaka-apekto ng traffic. Nakakaluwago ng traffic sa amin. Yun po ang epekto. So yung positive effect, nararamdaman po ng Manilans, yung mga taga-lungsod ng Maynila. And we've been trying to explain na what we're after is outside of the port. Sila nagparada sa kalye, kailangan namin silang i-clear. Minsan, iiwan nila yung mga truck na kung saan-saan. Second, yung sinasabi yung economic effect, those people are entitled to their opinion. Their opinion is as good as ours. But for the meantime, there are so many, literally, we see, literally so many studies been conducted that has truck ban of City of Manila is yun lang yung nag-light ng fire sa matagal ng problema sa port congestion.
Yes.
In fact, if I may, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, Ateneo School of Economics made a study. Well, from the JICA, we started with the JICA study, PCCI study, the USAID study. Now we have very recent Ateneo School of Economics. Ano sinasabi nila? Na before pa nang magkaroon ng truck ban, meron na talagang problema sa port congestion.
Yes.
So, and this thing, maliwanag na yan last week pa. Even the economic team ng Malacanang, agreed with the truck ban and focus on the port congestion. So the problem is port congestion. Ano ibig sabihin? Lumabas din doon sa mga pag-aaral at sa mga usap-usapan na na-reach na yung cap.
Right.
Nung port. How can you handle 22,000 empty containers sitting there, eating space, and about 7,000 confiscated by BOC inside the port? So this thing has been discussed. And
that's right. Well, Vice Mayor, if I may stop you there, we've seen clearly, and they have admitted it is a problem, and definitely something has to be done about it. Pero matagal yun, no, bago ma-solve completely. Now, while we're waiting, as they clear the port, hopefully remove the containers without anything inside, in the interim, are you thinking of another option? Is the City of Manila thinking of a way to possibly do a compromise with regards to the truck ban?
In fact, may bago na naman development ng Manila. Di ba, binigay na naman, nagduktong na kami ng panibagong express straight lane. Yung 24-hour window. Pinagduktong namin yung parallel road ng Osmeña Highway and Roas Boulevard na connect na yun through Quirino. So virtually, no, Michi, wala nang truck ban sa Manila. As long as you pass through the lane dedicated for the trucks. And modesty aside, no, pictures had been published sa dyaryo, front page pa, that bakit sa Maynila, itong mga truck na to, one lane talaga sila, sumusunod sila. So, the point is, ano pang hinihingi nila sa Maynila talaga? Hanggang saan kami sasakalin? Hanggang saan yung hostage ang Maynila? Who's not doing their job? We don't want to blame anymore because this thing had been tackled already last week pa. Maliwanag na kay Secretary Almendras, maliwanag na kay Secretary Abaya, kung sino yung hindi nagtrabaho. Now, what we're doing right now is addressing yung request ng national government, which is noong yesterday, Tuesday. Tuesday is the first day of additional express trade lane. And the old truck route still nagagamit pa rin nila on a truck hour window o window hour. So, ang dami na nilang kalye. So, ito ngayon. Even in fact, bigay ko na lahat ng kalye. For the sake of conversation, will they address the port congestion? No. You know why? Even the statement of the PPA, even the statement of port operator, ano sabi nila? Import-driven ang ekonomiya ng bansa. Having said that, ano yung numero sa import-driven principle? Sa 5 ini-import nating bagahe o container, 1.5 lang ang lumalabas sa export. So, it's a matter of time wherein yung 5 container, lalabas ng 2, may matitirang 3. You count another hour, another week, another month, then you will have still the same number of 22,000 or maybe more in a matter of few weeks and few months. So you did not solve the problem. Now here we are. Now today, ito yung development. I'm supposed to be there, no? I'm sorry to, hindi ako nakapunta dyan sa studio niyo.
I know you have a lot of meetings to discuss this.
Congress just passed a resolution within the committee level asking for lifting of the truck ban. Okay.
Yes.
Let me answer that in 2 perspectives. One, on a technical side. There's no binding effect. A resolution of Congress has no binding effect with an ordinance. An ordinance is a law within territorial jurisdiction of local government unit, unless Congress pass a law. I mean, when I say Congress, sa plenary, no, the entire Congress pass a law. Yun, may pwede yun. Because we cannot supersede existing national law, I mean, local law namin. But for the meantime, as we speak, there's no binding effect. Ba't pa nila parang bigla sila nakisawsaw dito sa usapang ito? Itong usapan ngayon, as we speak, solution na yung hinahanap.
Right.
Okay. Now, sige, for the sake of conversation, again, let me tell you, we lift the truck ban.
Okay.
So what will happen next? Did we solve? That's what we call palliative solution. Yun yung nakalagay doon sa study ng USA at saka PCCI, ni Dr. Basilio, if I'm not mistaken with the name, no? Ayun nakalagay doon. May palliative solution. Madali lang yan. Yung problema na yan. Gusto niyo? O lift natin yung truck ban. But don't ask me or anybody in Manila, bakit hindi pa rin na-solve yung port congestion?
Sige, Vice Mayor. So,
Because,
sorry, we have to leave it at that because we're running out of time. Hopefully, we
sorry,
can have you again to explain further.
But we are willing, don't get us
So you're
wrong.
willing. It's good to hear you are
We're
willing
to,
Okay.
as long as magbe-benepisyo taga-syudad ng Maynila at kami nakikialisabay sa
Okay.
national government.
Okay, since you're in a very important meeting, perhaps we'll hear a very important announcement this week then. We'll wait
Thank you po,
for
ma'am.
more news again. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Isko Moreno. All right, we also have with us DOTC spokesperson Mig Sagkal. Attorney Sagkal, what is your reaction? Of course, truck ban, very big issue. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think the important thing that the Vice Mayor said is this is not a time for pointing fingers. No, each body has its own opinion and it's not more valid than the other. What's important now is that we're working together to find a solution. That's actually one thing that this port congestion issue has highlighted. It's that the logistics system of the country is very complicated. It's not solvable by the ports alone. It's not solvable by truckers alone or by the cities alone.
True.
It's an interagency effort where you can figure out now how to maximize the logistics system. For us, in the DOTC, Vice Mayor Moreno mentioned palliative solutions.
Yeah.
That's true because for us, the long-term solution is to move port activity to Batangas and Subic. Ports that are underutilized but that have sufficient facilities.
Yes.
Not to totally negate Manila.
Because it's quite difficult. It's a bit too far. Of course, the center of business is still in
That's right.
Metro Manila.
There's a very high percentage of the imported goods going around Manila.
Yes.
But at least those that go to the southern part of the Philippines, of Luzon, then you can move it to Batangas, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the important thing. We're actually thankful to the city of Manila. Recently, they agreed to open a second route to exclusively to trucks. So these are the solutions that we're moving forward will help ease congestion now as we move along to the long-term solutions of moving port activities outside of Manila.
Well, you mentioned also some blame game, pointing fingers. Now, there's also been some disagreements between various transportation agencies like the LTFRB, MMDA. What is being done? Because some people are blaming the other agency, for example.
Yes.
Now, Malacanang has actually issued a statement trying to bring these guys together. What's happening in that regard?
To me, the problem was more in coordination. I think, again, each agency has its own concern. MMDA had traffic as its own concern. LTFRB has, giving franchises as its concern.
Right.
The development since since the issue blew up is for one, the trucks provision, those who don't have franchises, to be issued provisional authorities pending their franchises. So they were given a certain deadline to submit their applications, and now the LTFRB has a deadline by October to issue the franchises corresponding to those provisional authorities.
Yes.
In the meantime, they will be allowed to apply. That's important because that allows the port congestion to not worsen.
Right.
So now you have the trucks continuing their regular services, moving the goods from the port and distributing them around Metro Manila and outside of Metro Manila. Another solution is for the buses. There was a policy that buses would be allowed to modify their routes from their original franchises. Over the years, because it's been many years, the routes are no longer the same as they were originally designed. Because for one reason or another, passengers are taking different routes now.
Yes.
So it's sort of a curative measure. Over the years, the LTFRB is saying essentially that we will correct your routes based on where the passengers need you the most now. So the agreement was that within Metro Manila, they will not be allowed to do that. The buses will have to strictly follow their franchises.
Right.
But there's a study anyway that's going on that will figure out how to maximize those roads. Outside of Metro Manila, we continue.
All right, now on a final note, of course, Carmageddon, every day we spend at least, if you're going from Quezon City to Makati, for example, 2 hours each way. You were stuck in traffic yourself.
Yes.
What will we see in the immediate or the short term? What will the government do to really address this issue? We have the PPP projects, public-private partnerships. But for example, the subway, the Metro Loop, is that really realistic? Are we going to see something like this happening?
Yes, definitely the projects are realistic. What's not realistic is to expect them overnight. The projects that we're doing, we have, for instance, a skyway that will connect all the way to NLEX from the southern part of Luzon now. You have an NLEX-SLEX connector road that will pass through the port area.
Right.
You have a subway possible. You have upgrades for your rail systems, which are the real solution to traffic because now commuters will go off the road and take a faster form of commute. We're introducing the bus rapid transit to the country. This will take about 3 to 5 years to take effect. And then for completion, that's easily 5 to 10 years.
Right.
But at least we can say that the next generation or the students today, when they start working,
In
will
our
not have the
lifetime, at
problems.
least.
That's right.
That's good to know.
Yes.
All right. Well, not enough time. Hopefully, we have you back again. Surely
Sure.
we will. We're always
I'll be
talking
happy to
you.
be here.
Well, thank you very much to our guest, DOTC spokesperson, Attorney Miguel Sagcal. When we come back, we'll have transportation expert and urban planner Rene Santiago and Secretary General of the Philippine Global Road Safety Partnership, Alberto Swansing, who is also former LTFRB chairman. We'll be back after the break. This is News.PH. Welcome back to News.PH. I'm Mitzi Borromeo. In the second half of our show, I'm joined by transportation expert and urban planner Rene Santiago, former chairman of the Metro Rail Transit Organization Line 1. And we also have Alberto Swansing, Secretary General of the Philippine Global Road Safety Partnership and former LTFRB chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mitch.
All right, so to start off, your reactions on the investigation. According to the DOTC, this MRT3 accident was caused by human error. Mr. Santiago.
That was almost an inevitable conclusion from their part, even before they started the DOT's investigation. On the night of the accident or the incident, I almost predicted that that will be their conclusion.
It is their independent, it is their investigation
Yes,
after all, yes.
After all, the drivers cannot complain.
Yeah.
I think they're still casuals up to now after more than 10 years of running or operating or being an employee there.
Right. Right. Well, Mr. Swansing, your thoughts?
That's a train, so I leave it to the expert on train operations.
Okay. Well, we'll get into now on the truck ban. What is your? Of course, we heard Vice Mayor Isko Moreno, no? So it seems he's very adamant about the City of Manila doing the right thing. Anong masasabi niyo sa sa mga comments?
Well, first, let me say that nobody wants traffic. No, that's because that's unproductive. Although that's a sign of progress, but that's unproductive. But what we're saying is that yung trucks is doing an important part, part of the economy. It's carrying cargoes, it's carrying goods that is bound to do sa mga factories for raw materials yan to be processed. Some of them papunta sa merkado, no?
Right.
And a lot more of those goods will end up in our table. No? So, ang sinasabi namin, wag yung tingnan yung trucks as the culprit.
Yeah.
No? A moving truck is not a traffic generator. Yung traffic generator is yung nandun dun sa harap na nakabara. Ano yun? Yung tricycle, yung jeepney na ginawang terminal yung kalsada, yung bus na ginawang terminal yung kalsada, yung truck na ginawang queuing area yung kalsada. So, let's remove all those obstacles. Para na sa ganun, magluwag yung daanan natin.
Right. So there is really the root of the problem is not the truck.
Not
really.
the trucks, not the
Yeah,
vehicles.
yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
they were saying that they cannot help avoid na maraming sasakyan ngayon. But of course, kaya maraming sasakyan, maraming private vehicles because yung tao, wala siyang mabalingan na dissenting public transport system.
Yeah.
If we have a decent public transport system, yung bus na hindi nag-uunahan, no,
Right.
na predictable na service, why will I use my car?
This is such a frustration for commuters
Yes,
because
yes.
you're stuck in traffic even if you use the MRT.
Yes.
Pagbaba nyo, saan naman, it's another
Kasi
nightmare.
ang tingin namin, like for example, matagal na ito, yung UBBRP for that matter, yung Unified Volume
yeah.
Vehicle Reduction Program.
Right.
Ang sabi namin, that's not a solution.
Yeah.
Ang tingin nyo sa tao na bumili ng sasakyan, binili lang niya yun para ipagmayabang. So, pwedeng bawalan. But look, for example, Mitch, halimbawa yung plate number na sasakyan mo is 1. How will you go to office on Monday?
Oo nga, ang color coding scheme, it's not
Color
really.
coding. So, you have to buy a new, another vehicle,
Right,
second
right,
car.
right.
Now, you have an excess vehicle. So, what will you do? Pangahanap
use it.
buhay mo.
It just gets worse.
Colorum.
Yeah.
Yun.
Yes. So we're at it just gets worse.
Yes,
Yeah.
yun ang sinasabi namin. No?
Yeah.
So, tingnan na, tuon tayo doon sa problema.
Right. Mr. Santiago, you've been working in the sector for 30 or over 30 years. Now, how have you seen the projects evolve? Every year or every few years, the government promises solutions, we will get better. Do you think that with these PPP projects, our traffic situation will really improve?
No.
Why is that?
I don't think they are moving in concert. pabidahan pa rin, no? I want to do this, do that. No? NEDA attempted to create a master plan para coordinated lahat. I think only Public Works is on the ball. DOTC, unfortunately, is, I think, playing a different game or singing a different tune.
Right.
For example, earlier, Mig Sagkal made it appear that DOTC was the rescue here on the problem of MRTC. Actually, it's not. MRTC was doing a maintenance before on their own until DOTC grabbed that opportunity from them.
Right.
You know, the agreement for that is that's the asset of MRTC. Sila ang magme-maintain, babayaran ng gobyerno. It's in the financial circle called wet lease. What DOTC did, unilaterally, ginawang dry lease. Sa amin ang maintenance. So that created the problem. Kaya in the last 2 to 3 years, the MRT started increasing the glitches.
Right.
That is the fault
They
of
took on the maintenance without the expertise.
Yeah, because suddenly they created, kunwari, the emergency, terminate ang Sumitomo. They hired their favorite group to come in the meantime.
Although he claims they went through the proper protocol.
But there is only one qualified na pinalabas nila.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah.
We're not born yesterday to say na
Right.
in the
Bit
first place,
questionable.
the contract for 1 year, you converted the contract into a janitorial contract. This is a sophisticated maintenance requirement.
Right.
Sumitomo was doing it very well. If they did that, biglang tinermi, why did they not do that on the other maintenance contractor ng LRT1 and LRT2? Both were extended contract. In 2011, I was part of the task force of the DOTC that reviewed the 3 contracts.
Yeah.
The 2 were not performing well. The one that was performing well was Sumitomo. They have a history, a track record, supply chain. Tinanggal ng DOTC yung supply chain. And that told me already MRT3 is headed for trouble. And sure enough,
Right.
it happened.
Now we know the public is very skeptical about the transportation sector. It's kind of common, well, people seem to think there's a lot of graft and corruption happening here. Now, sir, Mr. Swansing, you were in the LTFRB and during that time.
LTFRB and LTO.
Yes, and of course, big frustrations with those agencies. Now, in 2009, there was a case where some regional officers were removed because of some allegations related to some graft and corruption.
Not during my time.
That was I think 2009. There was a case, was it? But in terms of any cases that happen, when it comes to contracts, for example, maybe the protocol is not followed. Can you share some experiences during your time? I mean, maybe from the private sector, it's not.
During my time as LTO chief, we had procurement, like for example, the plates. It went through the process. Hindi kami pinapakialaman ng DOTC because we have our own budget.
Right.
So we did the what you call this, the bidding.
Yes.
So no delay.
So
Right.
no delay. No delay.
Here's what I was referring to. Sorry, in 2009, there were some LTFRB regional officials who were sacked. Apparently, there was a covering up of the alleged systematic graft and corruption happening inside LTFRB 6. Do you recall that case?
Yeah, I recall that case. That's Region 6, that's in Iloilo,
Yes.
where there were complaints about the regional director there. I had him transferred
Yes.
to another region for that matter.
Right, and the taxi operators, some were complaining about you also. So this is
Well,
something that
it's
sector
the
faces.
taxi operators were complaining because the regional director concerned was issuing franchises.
right.
And well, they were questioning. You know, actually, what I'd say is that what the group of taxi operators in that area wants is that those franchises should only be issued sa grupo nila. So that started it all.
Yeah. Now, in terms of these franchise, with the joint administrative order now, and for example, in catching the colorum vehicles, there's
Okay.
still some arguments also between LTFRB, MMDA. Anong masasabi nyo dyan?
Yan,
Sige,
okay.
Mr. Swansing.
Dapat walang argument yun. Ano?
Oo nga magulo.
Well, dapat walang argument if in the first place, the JAW was not issued.
Oh, you don't think it should have been
Yes,
issued?
because it's untimely. Ang franchising natin is in a mess, no?
Yeah.
Like for example, take the case of bus operation, provincial bus operations. These provincial buses touches Manila from the provinces. Take the case of one bus operator, one of the oldest bus operator in the country, Victory Liner. The original franchise of Victory Liner is from Balintawak to Baguio. That's what is written in his
Right.
franchise.
Right.
For so long a time, he runs that route, no? But at the same time, because of this, they called it not rationalization, but there was moratorium.
Yes. Okay.
So the franchise was not amended. It stayed the same. Nevertheless, what LTFRB then did was to allow these buses to touch Manila. Like, for example, Victory goes all the way to Sampaloc in
Yeah.
the terminal. Some of them goes all the way to Cubao and then Pasay. So, ang sinasabi namin is that ayusin muna natin yung prangkisa niyan. Dahil pagka binaba niyo yung JAW, which the highlight of which is yung colorum penalty, maraming tatamaan. In the case, like for example, Victory.
Yeah.
Yung from Balintawak to what you call the Sampaloc,
Yeah.
that's out of line.
Right.
So that means colorum yun.
Right.
So what happened? Binaba yung JAW, yung Victory bus stopped at Balintawak and told the passengers, bahala po kayo sa buhay niyo papunta sa Sampaloc. Hindi kami pwedeng pumunta, huhulihin kami. Realizing that, LTFRB backtracked a little. I mean, they allowed, they talked to the bus companies to, sige, pag-usapan natin yung mga
It
prangkisa.
seems they're still not sure, no?
Yes.
Parang experimentation.
In the case of trucks, itong mabigat.
Oo.
For so long a time, and Rene is aware of this because he was ahead of me in the transportation,
Right.
there was this, what we call de facto deregulation as far as tracking is concerned. If you take a look at the records of LTO, the number of trucks that they have registered for 2013 is something like 350,000 units.
Yes.
And we estimate that around 80% of that is doing truck for hire. Now, if you now take a look at the records of LTFRB, you will see there that in as of June 2014, they only have issued something like 38 or 40,000 franchises
Franchises, yeah.
to 40,000 units.
Right.
So you can
Doesn't
now see
tally.
the big difference.
Yeah.
Bumaba yung JAW.
Oo.
So only 38,000 run.
So we're really seeing no bad plan. And we have to move on, sorry, because we're running out of time now. In terms of other solutions, you heard Attorney Mig Sagkal earlier talking about how the government is moving forward. But what do you think are realistic actions that the government's really going to take?
They should prepare a backup, fallback plan, plan B, in case they have to stop MRT3, even for a temporary necessary repairs.
Well, for
and I don't think they
you
have
don't
a
believe the
plan.
MRT3 is safe, no? You yourself, you would not ride it. Because they're saying they will have new cars by 2015, but
No,
now...
they will still have operations, but they may be forced at some point to stop, especially when the new trains arrive,
Right.
to introduce it to the system.
All right, we'll talk more about that now. We'll take a short break. News.PH, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching News.PH. I'm Mitzi Borromeo, and we have Rene Santiago, a transportation and urban planner, and engineer Alberto Swansing, former LTFRB chairman. So we were talking about traffic management. Basically, it's a big problem handling the trucks, the buses. What is the big issue? How did we get here, Mr. Santiago?
We dismantled a lot of the traffic signals from 2002 to 2010. That virtually the computerized traffic signals shrunk. When you have less intersections under a central computer system, then you have reduced the efficiency of traffic movement. That happened. Especially the introduction of U-turn to replace the traffic signals created havoc on Katipunan where I live. No? Used to be, it took me 10 minutes to bring my daughter inside Miriam at the time. When they introduced it, I was on the street for 30 minutes.
My gosh.
So almost all the things were happening on that basis.
Yeah.
Now I think they're moving back the signals, but it will take time because these were destroyed in the past.
Yeah. Mr. Swansing, you having moved from the public to the private sector, you've seen how difficult it is to manage. What are your thoughts? I mean, what were the biggest challenges then, and what do you think you can do now? Do you think you can do more now, being in the private sector?
Well, the focus is on the discipline of drivers. No?
That is another issue.
That's a big factor in the traffic mess.
Right.
Rene mentioned that some of the intersections now are being signalized again. But you will notice, like for example, in the intersection of Quezon Ave and West Avenue and Timog, you can see vehicles turning left to West Avenue, occupying 3 lanes.
Yeah, that's frustrating. Yeah.
So
And then the U-turns, of course, the U-turns.
yeah, the U-turns.
Then-
The U-turns, pwede sana yun. But you have to do some engineering.
And sometimes they close them, so ang gulo. You don't know when they'll be opened or closed.
The worst thing that they were doing was, like for example, the barriers. They keep them apart, no, a distance.
Yes.
So pagka nabangga, papaling ng ganun. So obstruction na yun.
Oo,
Ang sinasabi namin, ba't hindi mo i-welding yan para isa lang? Para i-slide lang yung sasakyan. Sa
Bakit
kasakali.
nga hindi nila ginagawa yun?
And very unkind sa trucks yung U-turn. Huh? They
That's
cannot,
right.
They cannot do
Because
U-turn.
of the turning radius,
Yeah.
malaki.
You see that in Katipunan a lot. They have to
So,
go further down. Yeah.
The truck will have to move farther down.
Yeah.
That create additional traffic.
Yeah. Well, you brought up driver's discipline. Of course, as much as we blame agencies, there's also a big problem among ourselves. Many people get their licenses without getting properly tested. How do you think we can solve this culture? This very
First thing, we have to start with the drivers of public utilities. That's under the control of LTFRB, so they can impose a new education for drivers. I have recommended that 2 years ago.
yeah.
That first massive education is started with the public utility drivers. Government has not done anything.
Yeah. And Mr. Swansing, between, there's always a debate, no, between the public and private vehicles. Who's causing more of a mess on the road? Which is it?
Both.
Both. We cannot say.
Both.
Because people say it's the buses. They
No,
take
no, it's
over
both.
all the lanes.
Because the undisciplined drivers is not a monopoly of public transport. Ano?
That's true.
You can also see private vehicles, drivers doing nasty things.
Yeah. What about with the obsolete vehicles? It's such a frustration that we see, really smoke belching vehicles, old public and private vehicles on the road. How can we solve this? How can they really be taken off the road?
We have an inspection system in place to remove the
So-called,
smoke belching,
yeah.
so-called. But the problem is made worse by your number coding, your BRRP. I have to hold on to my old vehicles because you ban me from some other days. You have actually created what the economists call cobra effect. By banning the vehicles at certain times of the day, you have encouraged people to buy second-hand cars
Right.
and hold on to them for longer times.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the PPP projects again now. Attorney Migsacal says they will definitely be carried out. Now, you wrote an article not so long ago, Mr. Santiago, about how these were actually meant to fail. They were designed to fail. What did you mean by that, these PPP projects?
I made a study for ADB on PPP on the 10-1 in sometime November, and I mentioned that none of the 10 will get implemented. And sure enough, none of the 10 got implemented. The 2 that got implemented were not in the list. In fact, I suggested them behind the scenes to the government officials, and these were the first 2 projects that got on PPP. There is no incentive on the part of the government to go on PPP because that will mean lost control and less opportunity to put their fingers in the cookie jar.
Right.
That is why it's having difficulty.
Now, you estimated losses for 2011 to 2013 at about 25 billion pesos, no? That was really, and you say that it will not be, many of these projects, like the LRT2 East Extension, will not be completed until 2016.
Yeah, no rail projects will get completed by the time Pinoy stepped down. Unfortunately, there were opportunity, like for example, the LRT2 Masinag, very simple all preparations.
Yeah.
I even told the OTC,
No right to
you
play
can
problem.
build it now, follow my timetable, by 2013 you can inaugurate.
Yeah.
They never did.
Well, what's so sad, we were the first in the ASEAN, wasn't it, to have the LRT system. We were the, among the ASEAN countries.
Yes.
To
In
set up.
1984, when Line 1 opened, we were the first in the ASEAN. Singapore sent representative to study. Singapore started doing their MRT 1985-86. Now they have 150 kilometers. We're still stuck with 50 kilometers.
Yeah.
It was the same with Bangkok. They went over here to study our...
Imagine that. And now they've really overtaken us. So we are the back at the back of the line. Do you think that like this metro, the subway system, apparently it's going to be done. Do you think that's really going to work?
It's not going to happen under the OTC's watch. They're suffering from what I call organizational apraxia. To borrow a term from medicine neurosurgeon.
Yes. What do you mean by
So
that?
they keep on talking about building a subway system. They haven't solved the basic issues on that. So it will just be a show.
Right. Because the list of PPP projects were taken over from the previous administration. Do you think that these projects will also be taken over by the next administration?
Hopefully, they should make what happened to LRT1, where it's privatized and concession. Do it for 2 and do it for 3. There was an opportunity for the OTC to solve all the problems of MRT3 when Metro Pacific submitted an unsolicited proposal.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying, the government has not really delivered on its commitments, no?
Yeah, well, they will talk that they have.
Yeah.
They will keep on promising.
Final words, what for each of you would you say your biggest pet peeve talaga in terms of traffic in Manila, and what do you think can be done about it, Mr. Sonsing?
Biggest pet peeve?
What really irritates you about
What irritates me the most are those enforcers that were tasked to do their job, but they're not doing it.
enforcement is a big problem, and how do you solve that? It's also another added mind, changing behavior.
Yeah.
Mr. Santiago.
It's really, if I drive, driver behavior. You know, if we are all civil to each other, we don't even need traffic enforcers.
Yeah.
And our travel, even if it's congested, will be less stressful.
Yes.
But as it is, because of the situation created, we like to overtake each other and elbow each other. We have converted it into a game of chicken.
There you have it. So we all contribute to the problem, but we can also all contribute to the solution.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for your insights. And thank you to our guests, Mr. Rene Santiago and Mr. Alberto Swansing, for being on the show. Sitting in for Pio Ontiveros, I'm Mitzi Borromeo. Thanks for watching News.PH. Good night.
What happened was, after cranking it, it appears like in his mind, the driver believed that the trains were still engaged.
Yeah.
But because of the cranking, in fact, it had loosened up. And so when the assisting train pushed the distressed train uphill, it's an uphill drive going towards Taft, it was normal, although indicators also show that it was overspeeding a bit. And by the time it reached the hill,
Right.
the front train just started going on its own, pulled
Okay.
by gravity. And because its power had been shut off, there was no means to stop it before reaching the train station of Taft Avenue.
So this is why the investigation is out saying this is human error.
Yes, that's
Purely
right.
human error.
That's right. If you look at the standard operating procedures, which
Yeah.
are designed precisely to address situations like these, they were clearly not followed to the T.
Right. But yet officials have also been saying that the MRT3 system has been obsolete. In fact, maintenance was needed. So isn't there a bit of a disconnect here? Because wouldn't you say that since the maintenance was needed, there was also a technical problem involved?
Well,
so it cannot be purely human error.
The cause of the accident was a human error. Whether there's
We have Department of Transportation and Communication spokesperson Michael Arthur Sagcal, and on the phone in a while, Vice Mayor of the City of Manila, Isko Moreno. And in the second half, we'll have transportation expert and urban planner Rene Santiago and Secretary General of the Philippine Global Road Safety Partnership, Alberto Swansing, who is also a former LTFRB chairman. Now let's begin with Attorney Sagcal. Thank you for joining us, sir.
My pleasure to be here.
You just came through horrible traffic, huh?
Yes, coming here from the far distance of Ortigas
That's right.
Avenue.
And we will discuss this Carmageddon
Yes,
situation. But for now, the investigation of the MRT3 accident just came out. So tell us about the findings of this report.
Well, in a nutshell, I think a lot of people are already familiar with what happened. There was a three-car train configuration that stalled, supposedly between the Magallanes and Taft Avenue stations, which had to be pushed by an assisting train. So the distressed train could not unload passengers and had to be pushed all the way to Taft Avenue. However, the investigations, I'll go straight to the findings.
Yeah.
It was shown that the distressed train was actually still partially inside the Magallanes station.
Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. Sitting in for Pio Ontiveros, I'm Mitzi Borromeo. An MRT train that overshot the railway, a congested port, Carmageddon traffic in Metro Manila, and the recent truck ban, transportation woes such as these can make our lives a living nightmare. Tonight, we try to make sense of this transportation mess and find out what's being done to solve this huge web of problems. Our guest tonight in the first half of the show,
So technically, the passengers could have been let down and onto the platform. The drivers did not follow the standard operating procedures.
So you're saying they should have been let down there. That was the driver's decision.
They could have been, yes. I think if the command center took the time to check if the train was indeed interstation, then they would have followed the correct procedure. But however, since it was still partly in the Magallanes station, then the command center could have instructed the drivers to let the passengers down. That's one problem. Another problem is the standard operating procedure is both drivers and alternately take a look at the coupling.
Yes.
So once the trains are engaged, one driver goes down, checks it, the other driver monitors from his dashboard, and then they switch. They do the same procedure for their respective trains, right? In this case, it was only one driver that went down and checked the coupling. And I think the biggest mistake here was that he even cranked the coupling. And cranking it means essentially that you are initiating a decoupling.
Right.
So need for continuous maintenance, which, by the way, is being provided. We never stop maintaining the trains, otherwise we'd be forced to stop operations altogether.
Right.
Whether there's a need to upgrade the signaling system, which is a different component, whether we need to improve the maintenance contract, yes, the answers are clearly yes. The MRT system hasn't been upgraded or improved for easily 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
They're outdated. These are solutions that should have been done by MRTC 10 years ago, the private owner of the train system. And in fact, as DOTC stepped in and purchased, for instance, the first improvement was the purchase of 48 additional train coaches. MRT Holdings, which is a separate company but controls MRTC, is trying to block that as well. So these are the obstacles that the DOTC has to face. But they don't, we have to face them because we need to improve the system as it is.
Now, in terms of the investigation, there was an editorial cartoon in the Philippine Star today showing, I don't know if you saw that, but basically there's a long arm of the DOTC pointing at the driver, and next to it was the train